Welcome, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Um, it's nice to see so many people have signed up to join us. We really appreciate your presence. Um, as you enter, do feel free to rename yourself by adding your country. It'll be really wonderful to see how many people we have from all corners of the world. And maybe if you would like to introduce yourself into the chat, it'll be lovely to see who is here with us. Maybe you could say what you do or why you are here. It would be lovely to hear from all of the people that we have. We've got hundreds of people registered from all around the world, so we're very happy to have you. And whilst you all get warmed up, welcome to this very special British Council Alumni UK event. This is Climate Action Through Community. We shall be presenting stories from around the world, and thank you. Thank you for choosing to spend the hour and a half of your busy day to join us. Trust me, you won't regret it. It is, after all, officially Earth Day. So what better way to spend it than here today? Indeed, the next hour and a half could unlock something far bigger than you and far bigger than me. And by the end, you might feel inspired to join our global community of climate action change makers. By way of a quick introduction, my name is Dan Su. I'm based in London, UK. I'm a British Chinese male with black hair in a top knot and a beard, and I'm wearing a pink t-shirt with a pinstripe dark jacket on. I've worked with British Council as a freelance facilitator for the last 10 years or so. Um, but I have to admit, this may well have been one of my favorite and most fulfilling programs yet. It certainly has been one of the most important. So, formally, over the last year, Alumni UK has funded 20 climate action grants from 12 countries. As part of Create Adapt, I've had the pleasure of convening and facilitating this groundbreaking cohort alongside James Edelston, who you may meet later. However, this is about centering, this is about celebrating our climate activists that we've been working deep with. And they have been working deep in their communities, from Malaysia to Nigeria and many places in between. Very quickly, I just wanted to let you know what we are doing today in terms of a running order. Today, we're going to premiere a short film, and you will be the first to step into the online film exhibition of their incredible work. This is an exclusive. Thank you, everyone. You will be the first to see this incredible work. As well, there will be talks, there will be a panel from some of the participants, there'll be some world-class live music that echo with the themes of climate action. So overall, this is nourishment for the brain and this is nourishment for the soil. All you have to do is just sit back and enjoy the show. So we've got a packed program, so I'm not going to waste any further time, but it gives me great pleasure to introduce the global program lead of Alumni UK. Please step up to the stage, Helen Etheridge.
Thank you very much, Dan. And it's a real pleasure to add my welcome to all of you today, as well as I briefly introduce Alumni UK in the context of all of this climate work that we're going to be celebrating today. I'm speaking to you from London, where I'm sat. I'm a white British female. I have dark hair and glasses on today. Alumni UK. You might not have heard about it. It's the UK's global network for international graduates of UK higher education institutions. And we're at an exciting time. We've only launched at the end of 2022, and now we've been connecting more than 140,000 members across more than 200 countries and territories around the world who you're representing today. And what it is a platform for alumni who've studied with the UK to stay connected to each other and to the UK, and to help build their careers, support them in their professional and personal development as well, and engage really importantly with global challenges like climate action, inclusion, and sustainable development that we're going to be talking about today. We also run quite a wide range of professional development events throughout the year, both online and in person in certain countries. But alongside that, we're placing a growing emphasis on social impact because it's true to say that so many UK alumni are actually already doing incredible work. They're change makers in their communities and sometimes even on a national or even global level. So if we can help provide a bit of a platform through the British Council to amplify that work and connect people with others doing similar things, like you're going to be hearing about today, that's really quite powerful. And especially building on the experiences and skills that they developed during their time in the UK. So that's what led us to the Climate Action Grants Programme that we're celebrating today. It's really at the heart of today's showcase. And as Dan alluded to there, this was our first year piloting the programme with the aim of offering small, flexible grants to alumni around the world to take forwards community-based climate projects. And I'll be honest, we were quite overwhelmed by the level of interest. As I say, it was a pilot. We didn't know how it was going to go. And what you'll see today, I think, is that our grantees have really managed to achieve a lot in quite a short space of time. So I'd just like to start by congratulating all of our 20 project leads and their teams. The quality and creativity of the work that you're going to be witnessing is really inspiring. I think you'll agree. And all of you should really be proud of what you've achieved, certainly. And also, really big thanks to you, Dan, and to James as well. Dan and James, as was mentioned there, are the consultants who've done so very much for the programme, and their guidance and their experience has been invaluable, to be honest. So just some headline figures for you. I won't inundate you with numbers, but I think it's good just to set the scene a bit of how many people have been involved in all this. So in total, we received over 300 applications. We were able to support 20 projects across 12 countries, and those projects engaged around 600 participants, working with over 130 partners, and we've reached more than 2,600 beneficiaries. So that's no small thing. And I think it just really shows the demand for this kind of support, this platform, and the impact that alumni-led climate action can have too. So alongside the projects, I know, Dan, you've mentioned it, but we were able to bring together the teams through the Seed Pod community of practice. And I think that was the really exciting part as well, because as well as doing those projects at the local level, our alumni were able to engage with one another and support and learn from one another through that process. And I hope that some of those relationships, keep on after this year. And it's grown into a network of more than 60 members now, just really creating that space for collaboration and ongoing exchange. So just to finish off, all of this sits within the wider Alumni UK offer. So supporting alumni through professional development, global networking, and opportunities to work together on issues that really matter to them. And looking ahead, we're going to be building on this in the next phase of the climate community of practice. And we hope a new round of grants too, which should be exciting for some of you on the call, with climate action still as one of the core themes. But we'll be sharing more about that later in today's programme. So thank you so much. And Dan, back over to you now.
Thanks so much for that context and intro, Helen. Thank you everyone for writing into the chat as well. I can see lots of LinkedIn profiles and links, so do click on them. You'll be surprised. I'm sure I'll be surprised as well about how illustrious our attendees are today. So thank you. We're now going to move on, and I'm going to introduce to the stage Dr. Abdul Shakur. So Abdul Shakur is one of our Alumni UK members on the Climate Action Programme. He has been leading a project which is basically green nudges for urban futures. And we thought it would be appropriate to invite one of our Alumni UK members to do their own personal introduction very quickly. So Dr. Abdul Shakur, welcome.
Thank you, Don, and thank you everybody around the world. So good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. It's really an honor for me on behalf of my team and behalf of my country, Pakistan, I'm representing. So I welcome you all, and I'm grateful and privileged to everybody because this is because I'm the honorable member of Alumni UK. I study in UK, and one of the member of this climate action grant community of practice. So this is very really, and it's my honor that I present my work to so many international participants around at this globe. So that's really amazing. My project was basically is about the implementing the energy conservation and green practices in the community-based scenarios, where to by making intervention in the green, implementing behavioral changes in the community practices and how they utilizing, how they make conservation energy. So based on this, that is what the another technique that what we call is the green nudges. So that project is basically one of the approach that is being included in the UK Alumni Climate Action Grant Program. And I'm really honored that my project is just like this is this is one of the community-based projects. This is what is the motive of the Climate Action Alumni UK mission. And that was community inclusive, that was culturally very appropriate, and that was grounded in the locally contextualized context. There are many happy moments and powerful human moments, but one of the moments I will just like to share with you people all, that when we were having a feedback session with the community, and one of the older ladies came to me and she pointed out to the light switches, and there was a green nudge sticker on that one, and she said that my grandchildren are now racing over to switch off the light because they want our community and our block to win this competition. These are the healthy kinds of competition and signage that we were expecting. So again, it's my really an honor and my privilege to be part of this community and to be part of this stage. Thank you once again, British Council, and thank you everybody who has been part of this journey. And it's really amazing. Thank you, Don. Thank you everybody for guiding and for supporting this project overall through last 1 year transformative journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abdul Shakur. It was wonderful to hear from the voices of this beautiful cohort, which you'll also hear from many more too. We're now going to get started with the program, and we're peppering this with a bit of cultural, creative juices. So without further ado, I'm very excited, very proud to introduce a wonderful lady who will be playing a beautiful Indian classical instrument. She goes by the name of Debasmita Bhattacharya, and please put your hands together. We may not be able to hear them, but we'll feel your energy for some wonderful live music. Over to you.
Hello and namaskar, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank all the speakers and everyone here for such an enchanting discussion that's going to happen. I welcome you all. On Earth Day today, we are reminded to care for the Mother Nature, not only through action, but I feel also through awareness. Awareness of how deeply we can listen to each other, we can care for each other, and we can nurture each other. As an Indian classical musician, my music, my instrument, sarod, has always been very close to nature. In India, in Indian classical music, music is very much connected with nature and earth. And I feel that music is that one beautiful friend that is always connected and more close to nature and the Mother Earth. I will be playing a beautiful Bengali folk song for you that is part of India from West Bengal. And the name of this song is called Tomai Rid Majhare Rakbo, which means I will hold something special in my heart and will never let it go. I offered this as a small sonic pause to reconnect, to listen, to remember why we are here and what we are here for. Love Earth, and she will love us back. Thank you so much. তোমার হৃদয় মাঝে রাখিব, ছেড়ে দেব না। ছেড়ে দিলে সোনার গৌর আর তো পাবো না, ছেড়ে দিলে সোনার গৌর আর তো পাবো না। না না না, ছেড়ে দেব না, তোমার হৃদয় মাঝারে রাখিব, ছেড়ে দেব না। ভুবন মোহন গোরা, গুণীজনা মনোহরা গো। ভুবন মোহন গোরা, মণিজনা মনোহরা গো। ভুবন মোহন গোরা, মণিজনা মনোহরা গো। ও গো রাধার প্রেমে মাতোয়ারা, ও গো রাধার প্রেমে মাতোয়ারা, ভুলে যাবাই গড়া করি। যেতে চাইলে যেতে দেব না, যেতে চাইলে যেতে দেব না। না না, যেতে দেব না, তোমায় হৃদয় মাঝারে রাখিব, ছেড়ে দেব না। Namaskar. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Please send some love and appreciation in the chat, and shout and whoop and cheer in your office or your bedroom for Debasmita. That was absolutely beautiful. Thank you for starting us off in the most perfect way. You can find a link to Debasmita's Instagram, which I've posted into the chat there, or indeed you can just see it on the screen popping up now. Thank you, everyone, and nice to see you, Dan Smith. We're now going to move on with our next guest. We have a keynote speaker that we're very excited to introduce. We're calling this talk Grounded and Growing. So, looking at bridging climate action approaches and communities. They are the executive director of the Indigenous Climate Action Organization based in Canada. Please give it up for Ariel Seeki, Seeki Deranger. Sorry if I butchered your name.
No worries. Thank you so much. So, Iglanate, Dene Sotlaneta, Erilta Equi Hushe, Derange Betsini Hasli. I just introduced myself in my Indigenous language, which is Dene or Dene Sotlane. So, I just want to say thank you, or Musi Cho, to the performer just before me. That was so beautiful. And thank you to the organizers for this event. I am going to have some slides just to share with you, just because I like visuals as part of my discussions. And I wanted to sort of just ground on who I am and where I'm from. So I am Dene or Dene Sotlane from the territories of Northern Alberta in Treaty 8 territory. So on this map, you'll see a map of so-called Canada, and I come from the numbered Treaty 8 territory. And my community is an Arctic Zone A community, which is we live just below the 60th parallel, and we are Dene or Dene Sotlane. And Canada is comprised of different numbered treaties, and there's also a lot of territory that remains untreated, where there was no agreements for the sharing of the land. And this is an important context in my discussion that I'm going to talk about, because as we are looking to ways to bridge the relationships for action in the world, we have to understand that there are still unresolved issues, even in many parts of the developing nations. So Canada had originally agreed to not take up any land across what is now known as Canada unless they took up treaty agreements. And all of the yellowed territory on this map remains untreated, meaning that there are no negotiations. And this has led to numerous disputes over lands and territories in the region. And Indigenous rights overall are not unique to places like Canada, which is a part of the British Crown. But Indigenous peoples exist all over the world. The world's Indigenous peoples represent roughly 5 to 600 million, just 500, I think it's just shy of 600 million people worldwide. And Indigenous populations not only represent this large number, represents roughly 5% of the global population, but you can see where the numbers and populations are the most dense, which is Greenland, which has an 89% Indigenous population base, followed by French Polynesia, then Bolivia, Guatemala, Nepal, Algeria, Morocco, Kenya, Indonesia, and Niger. And Canada and North America doesn't even hit the top of that, which I always find really interesting, because there's still a domination of Western or Western or Northern Hemisphere folks dominating the discourse for Indigenous rights, but Indigenous peoples exist everywhere. And I just think I like to provide this context because we often don't think of Indigenous peoples living across every continent on the planet. And so Indigenous peoples represent, again, as I said, 5% of the global population across over 90 different countries where they're recognized. And there remains, just like in Canada, territories that have not established recognition of the Indigenous populations that live there. And the rights of Indigenous peoples in the context of bridging and building change for the future is really unique, because the rights of Indigenous peoples were defined under the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples in 2007. This was a unique instrument because it's the only UN convention or declaration that was created not by states, but by the people themselves, the Indigenous peoples. And when it was passed in 2007, not all countries signed on to this document. It was actually abstained by a couple countries and rejected by a few. And those countries were Canada, United States, New Zealand, and Australia. And so those countries have since signed on to, but this declaration sets the bare minimum standards for understanding how to uphold and respect the rights of Indigenous peoples, with one of the most formidable tenets of that being free, prior, and informed consent. I'm not going to read this. It doesn't really matter in the context, but I think it's really important to understand that the consent aspect is really important. Our communities are often pressured to participate in the development of our lands and territories and resources, and we're pressured to do that, and we're not actually given that free prior informed consent, free of coercion, intimidation, and manipulation, prior the information that are needed beforehand, informed meaning we have all the information, and the ability to say yes or no. And in the context of the crisis, the meta crisis that we're currently in, that from everything from economic crisis to the poverty and equality crisis, and most importantly, that it's under this umbrella of the climate crisis. And when we talk about this, we talk about all the world leaders coming together to try to find solutions to the problem, and yet they've been meeting for over 30 years under the UNFCCC, under the UN Forum Convention on Climate Change, and we're still not getting any less in our emissions. And a lot of Indigenous peoples in the cosmology and our cosmovision that says that we are interrelated with the natural world, the kinships that we have with our place are ingrained in our culture and our values, that disconnection is causing the climate crisis and mental health crisis that we are living in right now. And that only by treating the root causes of the climate change, disconnected relationships with ourselves, each other, and the land, can the trajectory for our future generations be changed. And this is really important in the context of understanding why we need to bridge those connections to understanding Indigenous rights, because Indigenous peoples, while they only form 5% of the world's population, they manage 11% of the world's forest, and they occupy somewhere between 22 and 65, depending on the scholar, of the world's land surface. And it's been estimated that Indigenous lands and territories protect critical areas on over 312 billion tons of carbon. So this is important in the context. And I'll just like to reframe our ideas of understanding what this means. Is we often talk about forests under the colonial frameworks of being the territories of Alaska, provinces and territories as they were founded by colonial systems. And Canada is in fact a colony. But if we start to really reframe what these forests represent, they represent the traditional territories of dozens of Indigenous nations that have lived in these territories since time immemorial and encompass great bodies of traditional knowledge and intergenerational knowledge that was passed down through generations that managed these systems and forests for thousands and thousands of years. And so we really have to understand that the root causes of climate change are those disconnections, and those disconnections come from this idea of colonization. Colonization came with this idea that the land was for the taking. It was something separate from humanity, something to be developed and bought and sold and traded, as opposed to revered for its sacredness. And while in our early phases of colonization, we focused on agriculture and foods and services like fishing, fur trade, agriculture, we're now morphed into the Industrial Revolution, which has seen us take this to the next level, to go into the depths of the earth to extract oil and coal and all of these rare minerals in order to continue to pursue capitalist colonialism that is, in fact, destroying our world. This is a picture from my own territory where we've seen the largest industrial project, the Alberta tar sands, wreak havoc on our lands and territories. And on the right side of the frame, I'm not sure if it's right or left for you all, you see that river system. That is the river system that my community used for thousands of years, that gave us water, that supplied us with the roadways in and out of our community. My community is a remote fly-in community, and this was a part of our culture. Our identity is this river. The Athabasca River is so important to us, and yet it is being contaminated and destroyed from industrial development. And that doesn't just have impacts on humans. I think that when we talk about kinship and relationship and building bridges, we often think about building bridges between people. But our kinship to the natural world also exists. Our relatives, the four-legged ones, the ones that fly, the ones that swim, the insects, the plants, the flora and fauna. These are a part of our relations in the natural world. And these systems don't just poison and contaminate it. It takes us to a place of devaluing these lives and seeing them as less than, and creating human hierarchies. On the left side is a beheaded bison, and this bison was poached in my territory, poached, not understood and revered for the importance that it has in our culture and our way of life, but instead treated as nothing but more than a trophy. And this ideology, this disconnection is what's driving the crises that we're currently in. And we have political leaders that don't see the connections and the disconnections and think that this is just simply in the continued pursuit for money, oil, and power. In reality, those root causes of the climate crisis are colonialism, patriarchy, capitalism, white supremacy, and extractivism. These are those root causes. And when we see what those impacts of the anthropogenic footprint, when we have those disconnections, and while we have human input on the ground, what I really want you to look at is this is the anthropogenic footprint of Canada. But when you really look at it deeply, it is not about humans. This is about industrialized sectors. It is not about individuals creating the damage, but it is about the sectors and the systems that we rely on, that we have this cognitive dissonance from, that are destroying the worlds that we live in. And I've talked a lot about Canada, but the European empires have colonized vast territories across the world, wreaking havoc on dozens of indigenous or hundreds of indigenous lands and territories, having the same types of impacts. And so what are indigenous people doing? What are we doing? We're not asking you to save us because, in fact, many of us are already doing incredible things. Indigenous peoples interpret and react to the impacts of climate change in creative ways, drawing on traditional knowledge and other technologies to find solutions that society at large can use to counter the climate crisis. The reality is we are our own experts. We are creating and building beautiful solutions. We are participating in some of the highest level discussions at the UN, bringing forward our solutions, bringing forward our culture, our cosmology, our plea to make that reconnection with the land. And we're navigating this complex web of multilateral systems in a way that is grounded in our culture by pulling forward that cosmology, that cosmovision, to respect Mother Earth, to build those kinships, and really influence these spaces to move away from that disconnection. And we do this by embodying and bringing forward our Indigenous knowledge that we have accumulated over generations. And our land defense movements that have often been criminalized are actually a tool and an opportunity for us to look at ways in which we can protect those beautiful places and move towards the equality that we truly need on this land. And I want to end with one thing. You know, as we talk about there's this mythos that we often entertain that Indigenous peoples' culture and ideology is something backwards and heathenistic and often lacked innovation and creativity. There was nothing here. We were nomadic on the land before anything. But the reality is that Indigenous peoples had massive trade routes that spanned all the way from the tip of North America into South America, with everything from tobacco trades to, and I know this is awful, but like slave trades in the continents of North America, where we traded every sort of element and food. Agriculture exists here. And we were innovators, from the syringe to the suspension bridges to rubber to aspirin to the baby bottle nipple to medical treatments. These came from innovations of Indigenous peoples. And we need to find a way to come back and understand, to come back and understand that as we move together to bridge things, colonialism remains an ongoing process, and we need to work to find ways to decolonize the processes moving forward. And decolonization shouldn't be scary. It's something that we're all a part of, and it's about the return and the connections to the land, to each other, and to our kinship. And so I really implore you all to think about ways that we can weave our visions together for a beautiful future, and how Indigenous peoples are peoples on this planet that have so much to offer and bring forward into this beautiful milieu of solutions for a better future for all. Thank you, and masicho.
Beautiful and powerful. Thank you so much, Ariel. just to highlight for everyone who is feeling invigorated and inspired by that, do feel free to ask Ariel questions directly. There's a Q&A function. If you go to the bottom of your Zoom, there's three dots and you can ask questions there. Ariel, I'm going to invite you to jump into that Q&A because there's a really interesting question about the repatriation of Afghan refugees from Pakistan, which is really interesting regarding displacement and some of the movement of people that you spoke about in your talk. But thank you so much, Ariel Sequi Deranger. It was prescient and really powerful to hear about the importance of decolonization in the context of the climate crisis, kinship, the role of industry and agriculture in the kind of what do I want to say the kind of originating days of colonialism and how that's evolved and still leaves a very powerful and damaging legacy today. So thank you so much. It was really powerful to have you with us, and I do hope you can stick around and perhaps answer some of the questions that are popping up in the Q&A section.
Did you want me to answer those questions now? I'm just unsure.
Just because of time, we're just going to move on. So, but you can answer them live in the Q&A function if that's okay with you. Okay, so bear with me one second. I'm just going to share my screen once again. Okay. It feels like a perfect segue, really, to talk very quickly about some of the work that we've been exploring on the seed pod. So the seed pod is fundamentally the sorry, I just realized it wasn't on. The seed pod was the community of practice which our cohort existed within, and we explored a number of key themes. As a starting point, many of which Ariel touched on. One was just transition, skills for the green economy, community cohesion, and addressing gender and other equality barriers. And the frame of this was that we had a learning journey that was kind of broadly split up into three pillars. One was ground, connecting as a community, exploring and celebrating the incredible work that many of our organizations were already doing. The second pillar was grow, so building the community, working across diversity, and exploring climate skills such as storytelling, systems thinking, and how can that impact positively climate action. And then the final important piece of the puzzle was sustain. So how do we sustain the climate action? How do we leverage networking and advocacy to ensure the community of practice can exist more powerfully at scale into the future? Now, what was really interesting was we had the opportunity to welcome several guests into the space. We had Gita Sayurani from Bless Indonesia, Tagrid from Julie's Bicycle, Ruth Daniel, the CEO of In Place of War and Earth Sonic, and Hindu Ibrahim, who's the chair of the Indigenous Peoples Forum on Climate Change. And actually, what started to emerge very strongly, both in the work that was already being carried out by our amazing group, but also in the conversations that were emerging out of the seed pod, was the importance of indigenous knowledge. Just to remind you what Ariel said earlier, that indigenous people manage up to 11% of forest land across the world and occupy up to 65% of the world's surface. So the conversations and the importance of indigenous rights, indigenous knowledge, and knowledge-based systems really came to the fore. Now, if you bear with me one second, I'm just going to now present to you the premiere of the video, which is essentially the highlights of the project that we've been working on. So what you're about to see is about 7-minute video, which gives you a taster of the online exhibition, which will open shortly after this. So just bear with me while I bring that up. Okay. I hope you enjoy this. This is Climate Action Through Communities, Stories from Across the Globe. 20 climate action projects from 13 countries, funded and supported by British Council Alumni UK, mobilising and learning together with a focus on inclusive, culture-based climate action.
Grass and land are matters of great concern for local nomads, as they are essential for their survival and that of their yaks and sheep. We proposed a plan inspired by Arshu community leaders. The UK Alumni Climate Action Grant from the British Council enables us to take collective actions and provides financial and methodological support. We seeded 1 hectare of the village common grassland, which is shared by over 250 herders each spring and autumn.
Authentic or nothing, baby.
In Timbul's local, climate change is happening now. Without strong local capacity, solutions cannot be sustained. This project took a different approach. It started by listening. The community identified their risks and priorities. The project introduced climate-adaptive aquaculture, including water treatment systems, and a demonstration pond as a shared learning space. Strengthening local skills, management, and long-term ownership. Practices are improving, ownership is strengthening. It is the beginning of a longer process where resilience is built step by step by the community for the community.
Cooking methods have long posed serious health and environmental challenges, from chronic respiratory issues to deforestation.
We have conducted a seminar where we have given the awareness regarding the health benefits of using an energy-efficient stove.
These stoves provide smoke-free indoor spaces, water heating and space heating, benefiting families while protecting environment.
This is durian peel. Durian peel can be energy. The durian peels were dried under direct sunlight for 6 hours. It then placed into a rocket stove type pyrolysis reactor. After the carbonization process is complete, the durian peel becomes charcoal. Then the charcoal is then crushed into powder using a crusher. The resulting powder is mixed with tapioca flour and then hot water. The mixture is then molded using a briquette press and dried under direct sunlight for 6 hours. Finally, the produce of the charcoal briquette can be used in a micro-gasification stove, which is suitable for use in the batik making process. To show that this technology is simple, accessible, and meaningful, we introduced pyrolysis technology to the children at Bina Remaja Donoharjo Orphanage, a home for children with diverse disabilities. By utilizing charcoal briquettes produced from durian peel waste, artisans can reduce their dependence on conventional fuels and lower production costs.
The coral bean is a resilient native crop known for its ability to thrive in marginal soils and drought-prone environments, making it an ideal stronghold for food security. Its consumption is limited due to processing challenges. Through extensive research, we successfully optimized the post-harvest process to effectively eliminate anti-nutritional compounds. The result? The development of an innovative product. Every product we develop carries a single message. Local food can be global food. The coral bean now stands on the brink of major revival and lead plant-based food innovation in the region.
Every day in Lagos, over 13,000 tons of waste is generated. We went into schools, teaching students how to turn their waste into opportunity.
It is very important. If we recycle our waste to have a conducive environment, we'll be able to protect our health as well, and also the health of the animals like the fish in the water.
We took the movement forward to hotels, restaurants, through a virtual training program that showed hospitality businesses how to manage waste better and build sustainable habits. Because we believe that Community effort is the way to drive change.
Authentic or nothing, baby.
Mangroves cover less than 1% of Earth's surface, but they store up to 5 times more carbon than rainforests.
They protect coastal environments from storms that get stronger every year, and they are disappearing faster than we can save them.
In our community compass activity, students debated a real dilemma: development versus protection, jobs versus biodiversity, short-term gain versus long-term survival. Every student who walked through those doors now knows mangroves are not just trees, they are climate infrastructure.
Through British Council's Climate Action Grant, Sikka Collective work with architecture students from Anant National University for their residential study program, in which they came to Shantiniketan, a place in West Bengal where the Santhal community resides, and they learned the vernacular architecture of the community by community members. And over the span of 2 weeks, these students learn different techniques of how to work with earth, bamboo, and natural material, paving the way for more such residencies to come.
What if the biggest, most effective, and most affordable climate solutions aren't these giant top-down engineering projects? What if they're actually found in the millions of small, invisible habits that we all have the power to change together?
The stories that once carried knowledge from one generation to the next can slowly fade. And when that happens, changes in the environment can become harder to recognize or simply accepted as part of everyday life. In Penampang, we work with Kadazan Dusun communities in the Moyok floodplain, where local wisdom has long been informed by the deep human and nature relationship. We gathered stories and memories from elders, experiences that younger generations may not have witnessed themselves. Our hope is that these lived experiences continue to flow like a river, carrying memories downstream through generations. In this way, we can strengthen the connection between human and nature in a changing climate.
And so there you have it, climate action through the communities. You were the first people to see that. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it gives you a bit of a taste of the importance and the impact of the work that all of this amazing group have been doing. And now we're going to give you the opportunity to dive a little bit deeper. I'm just going to share my screen one more time. Just bear with me. So now is time for the official unveiling of the short film exhibition. Now, I have just put a link into the chat, which you can follow. And here we're going to be unpacking some of these amazing projects. From Malaysia to Nigeria, we've had projects from the sinking village in Indonesia to recycling initiatives in Nigeria, indigenous knowledge and storytelling in Malaysia, vernacular architecture in India, and many more besides. The videos that you just saw in that highlight clip were just the tip of the iceberg. We have many more projects besides. Now, what you'll see is a map. You can click on that QR code to the top right if you wish to watch it on your phone, or you can click that link that I've just put in the chat so that you can access on your desktop or laptop. And essentially all you need to do, I'll just rewind this back as well, is you'll be presented with a screen that looks like this, and it's an interactive map. So the pink ones have films attached to them, the blue ones are also part of the project, but they don't have films attached to them currently. You will have 15 minutes to watch this. So what's going to happen is we're just going to put on some low music over here and invite you to sit in your living room, in your office, in your garden, wherever you may be, and spend 15 minutes choosing which projects that you want to watch. Now, each video is about 3 minutes long, just so that you know. So you won't have a chance to watch all of them, but we will send out the link after this event to everybody who's attended so that you can watch them in your own time. However, your feedback really means the world. And we invite everybody, every single video that you watch, please leave a comment or a question. It really helps fuel the fire and keep this action, this climate action burning. We encourage the project leads, so the people who created the projects, to respond live to any answers that might appear in the comments of your own videos. And just in case you need it, there are closed captions. So if you click on a video, you'll find that in the bottom right hand corner, there should be a closed caption button. Although ironically, perhaps not in this case, but in most of the videos, if you need a closed caption, you can find them in the bottom right hand corner around here. So we're now going to open the gallery and invite you to click on that QR code, click on the link in the chat, and we're going to call you back in 15 minutes. If anyone has any questions, do put them into the chat, and we'll see you shortly. Enjoy the films. I'll be here if anyone has any questions. To let everybody know, we're going to have 2 more minutes and then we will be back in the main space. 2 more minutes to watch films. Okay, we're going to start inviting people to finish the video that they're on, and we'll be starting again in 30 seconds. Okay. Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed those videos. Certainly, we're getting some really beautiful comments in the chat. Thank you, everyone who's leaving comments and questions on the videos. But don't worry, we know that wasn't very much time in which to travel the whole world and see all these incredible projects. So, after this event, we will be sending out an email which will also include access to this online exhibition so that you can watch the videos that you haven't seen in your own time, or indeed revisit the ones that you've seen that you loved that much. As you can see, there's been a lot of work that's been going on. And now we're going to move into a panel featuring some of the project leads that you may have encountered on some of their projects. Now, many of the people that you will meet in a moment, as well as their colleagues in the group, are unsung heroes. These are people driving change in their community in the face of very real and very tangible climate threats. Even during our workshop, members were confronted with floods in Indonesia, landslides in Pakistan, power cuts that impacted their ability to join the sessions, and it really goes to show you how important the Seed Pod workshops were, because through all of these, the importance was coming together as a group. Now, it goes without saying that this type of work is needed now more than ever. And this network holds power that transcends borders. So, without further ado, I invite them to put their camera on and join us for the panel. Magfira Abida from Indonesia, who's doing the Sinking Village project, which is about transforming coastal climate resilient livelihoods. Dr. Kuram Pervez from Pakistan, whose project was around energy efficient wood stoves. Nikita Teresa Sarkar from SICA, the Sustainable Indigenous Center for Collaborative Arts, based in India. And Arushi Shukla, who has been our grants projects researcher. Now, the way this is going to work, we don't have lots of time. We have about 10 to 15 minutes to squeeze in a bit of a taster of your experience and your projects. So I'm going to ask you first. I'm going to go with Magfira first. What have you learned about how to strengthen communities through climate action? And actually, very quickly, maybe in one line, can you tell us what your project was about? And then answer the question, what have you learned about strengthening communities?
Okay, thank you, Jan, for having me here. Just to give a quick context, maybe as you said, like Timbul Soko is a coastal village in Indonesia. The experiences like regular tidal flooding, this affects homes, livelihoods, and environmental health at the same time. So climate action here is very immediate. And from these experiences, what we have learned is that strengthening communities through climate action is not only about introducing the solution, it's about building the capacity to sustain those solutions. And in Timbul Soko, actually, we saw that communities were not lacking effort. They had been adapting for years. But many interventions did not last, not because they were wrong, actually, but because they were not fully connected to local realities or not supported by local system. So one key reason is like start by listening, not implementing. When communities are part of the identifying the problem, we believe that they are also part of the owning the solution. Another important lesson is that climate challenges are never isolated. In our case, like flooding, poor water quality, waste management, and income were all interconnected. If we only address one issue, the other will continue to weaken the system. And so strengthening communities means looking at the system as the whole. And perhaps the last one and the most important lesson is this. Resilience actually grows when people feel ownership, when women, youth, and local leaders are not just participants, but also they are also decision makers. That's when change becomes sustainable. You are unmuted. Thank you, Dan. Actually, you are muted, Dan. Okay.
Thank you, Megfira. I was just saying how important some of the things that you mentioned, especially around interconnected systems and also about the sense of ownership, particularly where women are feeling, are at the acute end of a lot of climate a lot of the climate crisis. And perhaps this speaks a little bit to the work that you've been doing, Dr. Khurram, in Pakistan. Can you tell us a little bit about the work that you've been doing and what you've learned about strengthening communities through climate action?
Thank you so much, Dan. It's a great honor to be a part of UK Alumni Network. In our project, basically in hilly areas of Pakistan, people are living in the hilly areas and they are basically using forest wood. They cut trees and that is resulting in deforestation. At the same time, people are using conventional stoves and mainly our women, they cook food and when the lot of smoke is generated and that results very deteriorated indoor air quality and it causes a number of chronic diseases. So in our project, we basically developed a very high efficiency wood stove, which actually uses 57 to 80% less wood compared to the conventional stoves. So that was the innovation in this project. And regarding the lesson, we have learned that how to strengthen our community. It is that climate action is sustainable when we engage community at very early stage. So it is not, we can say that we have made an innovation and we go over there and people will suddenly adopt it. So there is a lot of work to do before introducing our technical solution. So we have learned that to engage people at early stages and to understand their needs and then to design a solution according to their needs. So it is basically a trust building and co-creation instead of leaving those people alone and just going with our own solution. Another thing which we have learned through our project is that a lot of behavioral change is social. It's not individual. So we need to basically identify who are our stakeholders. For example, in our case, the major stakeholders were women. They cook food. So the area we selected, we came to know that it's not very easy to basically reach out to and talk to the women. So we have to engage our female students and then the community leaders in those areas. So we learned that it is very important to understand the social norms of those areas as well to make your project successful.
Thank you so much, Dr. Khurram. And again, it's really interesting to hear how you're combining your expertise in knowledge and technology and innovation. But ultimately, it still comes back to what Megfira was talking about, which is community engagement, co-design. I think it was really interesting what you mentioned about social, not individual change, is how climate action really matters and how it really works. And so, Nikita, moving over to India, your project was exploring indigenous knowledge and vernacular architecture. What did that project look like, and what did you learn from that process?
I think what our project did was we did some capacity building with the Santhal tribe in West Bengal. And it was very interesting because what my both cohort members have said and what also the keynote speakers said, colonization is so at the core of it that there was an act in India which actually criminalized a lot of tribes back when we were a colony. And although that act now has been removed, it's become so ingrained in the social structure that we soon realized, along with capacity building, what we had to do was also build in dignity in self so that they could see why their arts was of value. And then we got students from a university to come and stay with these artists and community members for 2 whole weeks. They shadowed the community members so that they could actually experience how their life was. I'm not even going to say what the hardships are. It's just what their daily life looked like. And this was an attempt because in architecture schools, at least around in India, vernacular is seen as something that's weaker architecture. But when you look at it from the lens of UN SDGs, you realize that sustainability that we talk of so much is something that's ingrained in indigenous knowledge systems. So although our aim when we started off was just holding these residencies, which could create awareness and an experiential learning of vernacular architecture, what the project ended up being was so much more in the sense of working with the community. And we didn't see them as collaborators from the day one that we were pitching the entire idea of what this project is going to be actually came from them. So I see myself and Sikka more as facilitators who were just bridging this gap between a fund that was available for the community, that they didn't have access to it. And therefore, we were just the bridge that was bringing them the fund so that they could really realize their own beautiful knowledge systems and then contextualize it in the current world. Because I feel like along with colonization and capitalism, there are so many things that play in that actually don't make them value their own identity. So creating a sense of pride and dignity in their own value systems was, I think, our biggest challenge. And I feel like how we crossed that challenge was by giving them examples of other projects that were happening. So the cohort was very important. And along with the cohort, the sessions that we were having gave us a vocabulary. So we don't look at them as stakeholders, but they were the right holders. They are the ones whose knowledge system it actually is. And yeah, I think our role was just as facilitators.
I think that you've put it so beautifully, Nikita, and and I mean everybody in this space to a degree is our responsibility and understanding where power lies. And you talk about bridges and your ability to be able to bridge that funding to the communities that most need it. And I thought what was especially interesting was a lot of what you talked about around old colonialism and criminalizing tribes and the importance of dignity and representation and value of indigenous knowledge really echoed with a lot of what Ariel was talking about with the history of the communities that they work with as well. And I'll just remind that line that you said, which has really resonated with me, which was rights holders, not stakeholders. Thank you so much, Nikita. We're now going to move on to Arushi. Now, Arushi's had a really unique role within the space. Arushi, do you want to share a little bit about what you've been doing and what you've learned?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Arushi. I was involved as a design researcher for the Seed Pod grant, and I was working with Create, Adapt, and British Council. And just to add on to the question that Dan was asking the panel members, which was how or what did I learn about strengthening community through climate action? As a design researcher, what I also observed through various sessions we had with the other members within the Seedpod alumni community was that it helped in strengthening communities through climate action. And it was also, in a way, a means of helping communities seeing themselves as a system rather than a single solution. And Dan, if I could ask you to share the visual of, yes. So this is a visual that I created to summarize the learning, which shows how local communities have to be at the forefront, but they can't work alone. Across the Seed Pod program, there were a lot of stronger projects, uh, which I also observed that as a design researcher were the ones that supported indigenous and local knowledge, science and research, education and learning, policy and institutions, and a real commitment to gender and inclusion. And what became quite clear was that impact was not just shaped by what a project delivers at the end of the day, but it also shows how all of these parts or how all of these systems are connected with each other, how people are collaborating, how knowledge is shared amongst different people, right holders, as Nikita framed it, and whether different voices are genuinely included. So the key learning that I also imbibed as a design researcher was that the communities, they are not just strengthened with climate action is participatory, inclusive, and connected, because at the end of the day, what helps them is adapting, responding, and sustaining to change over time.
Thank you so much, Aoshi. Was there anything else you wanted to share from your kind of bird's eye view?
Yeah, so this was also another visual that I created about how some of the projects were shaped through Seedpod itself. And the program and Seedpod especially was, I would say, a space for reflection, exchange, and stronger project development through dialogue, co-creation, and system thinking. And this is a visual that I created that summarizes this learning, where it shows that projects emerged when local and indigenous knowledge, scientific knowledge, and community knowledge, all of them were brought together. And some of the examples I can state is that, for example, for the project Peels to Power in Indonesia, the project grew through a focus on using durian and local resources and everyday practices, even with the project Greening Communities, which was focusing on planting mangroves in UAE. It focused on having knowledge about land, flooding, and connecting it with scientific climate data and the community. And then finally, in the project PANAS, which is focusing on community climate storytelling in Malaysia, it highlighted how community experiences and local narratives uh, involved and were looking at formal research. So I would say, to conclude, SeedPod not just at the end of the day supported project delivery that we saw from the videos, but it focused on a more integrated understanding of climate action, and the outcomes at the end are more inclusive, context specific, and systems aware.
Thank you so much, Aoshi, and thank you so much to our project panel. I wish we could talk at greater length, and maybe, who knows, we might get an opportunity to do that in a separate event. But I just wanted to take a moment to, on behalf of all of British Council, Alumni UK, and Create Adapt, thank you to all of the participants who took part in this program. There are many more that you haven't seen yet. You'll see their videos, you'll see their projects through the map. But honestly, it has been such a educational and inspirational process that has really, really influenced my own practice as well, because the importance of indigenous knowledge-based systems that we've talked about, the importance of community engagement, is applicable not only to climate action, but far beyond. And Lord knows that at the moment we need programs like this at the moment. We need community engagement on a level that's really speaking to the rights holders and not necessarily the stakeholders. So, as I say, we'll cut the conversation there for now. There's much, much more to talk about, but I just wanted to thank Magfira from Indonesia, to Dr. Kuram from Pakistan, Nikita from India, and Arushi from India as well, and all of the people that you haven't seen yet. You can turn your cameras off now, but thank you so much. If you have any further questions that you have for the panelists, do feel free to use the Q&A function that you would have seen in the bottom corner. Just click the three dots and there's a Q&A function if you have any further questions. So we have about 10 minutes left. We know we've been packing in a lot into a short space of time. It's because we really value your time. We know your very busy lives, but we wanted to make sure that we pack it with enrichment and nourishment for your own soil. So before we exit to some closing remarks and a call to action, which we're really keen for you to hear, I'm very proud to introduce the next artist to the online stage. Ladies, gentlemen, everybody in between, please give it up for Kobi Ayensuo.
Hello. Hi. Thank you so much, Dan. This has been such an incredible event. I've been learning so much, and just I have so much hope for the world, especially on Earth Day. It's just really important that we have so much reverence for our Earth. And that kind of is a beautiful segue to this piece that I'm going to be sharing with you all, which is called Mirror the Water. And yeah, essentially it's a piece that I first did in 2023 at Tate Britain, so it's an honor to be sharing it with you. It is a piece that explores how it is important that we protect Gaia, the earth, and noticing what our impacts are on the earth around us, as well as marginalized communities, queer communities, and spirituality, and how all of this kind of interweaves together. So without further ado, here we go. I find such peace by the water. Talk to the ones who came before me. They tell me our people are fluid, and love is letting my soul be water. Soul is every lake and ocean. Our souls are one in the ocean. Soul is every lake and ocean. Our souls are one in the ocean. Way back when little hands would form prayer fists asking rivers to send rains, enough to close school gates for a day. And those children of Guyanan plains would run, black shins in muddy water for wet play. Now, they don't need to pray for floods. Their bodies are taken by them. For when a man drains gold from our soil and crush out as metal's rotten breath, graying our ether, it is us Gaia begs to notice. Suffer, greasy, plastic blocks the nostrils of River Oshun, of Yorubas, River Dentsu of Akans, Kondomble, Komfa, Akom Isheshe. If there truly are spirits in water, Oshun, Yamaya, Ayensu, Mansa. It is only on African soil, First Nation people and her descendants that will oversoak and make way for ever-expanding lungs of spirits who cannot catch their breath. Their alveoli caked by sullied water. Their coming home wrecks our homes. And the coming home to oneself wrecks the home of water spirits who take human form. Our alveoli, caked by sullied water, black and trans and heavy in breath, for our ever-expanding lungs are two spirits that are over-soaking penal codes but making a way, for it is only on African soil, First Nation people and her descendants, that we feel our namesakes, Oshun, Yamaya, Ayensu, Mansa, for there truly are spirits in the water that everyone else has forgotten. Kondomble, Komfa, Akom, Isheshe, River Densu of our Akans, River Oshun of our Yorubas. We both suffer greasy plastic blocking our nostrils. It is us and Gaia who beg you to notice our graying ether, to crush out metal's rotten breath. For when a man drains gold from our soil, our bodies are taken by them. We don't need to pray for floods. Our shins are in muddy water, queer children of Ghana's plains on the run, enough to close school gates to us. And we ask river spirits to send revival rains, for little prayer hands have formed prayer fists from way back when.
Thank you so much, Kobe. That was beautiful and resonated beautifully with all of the messages that we've been hearing from many of our guests and panel today. So once again, thank you so much. I've just posted Kobe's Instagram. If you want to find out about their amazing work, I would strongly encourage you to follow them. And we're going to keep it moving. Once again, thank you so much, Kobe Ayen Suo. So just to let you know, we've got two really important messages left for you. So it'll be 5-10 minutes maximum. Hopefully you can continue to join us. So without further ado, I'm very proud to introduce Maria, the Senior Consultant for Programme Development on Alumni UK, and also James from Create Adapt. Over to you, Maria.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dan. And Kobe, huge congratulations. That was a wonderful performance. Hello, everyone. It is an absolute pleasure to be part of this event today. And I want to congratulate all our project teams, our project leads and members for the work that they have delivered with these projects. The work that you have delivered is absolutely fantastic, not only impressive, but also deeply meaningful, showing the creativity, leadership, and commitment that exists across our global Alumni UK community in addressing climate change through collective action and collaboration. I also want to take the opportunity to thank our collaborators, our consultants, James and Don, whose leadership and energy as co-hosts of the community of practice has been instrumental to bringing these projects to life. And of course, I would like to thank all our colleagues from the Global British Council Network for their contribution and their support throughout this journey. So today it's a celebratory day, no doubt. It's an important moment, but also an exciting one. And this is because we're now transitioning from the seed pod phase of the community of practice, the powerful pilot of the 20 projects, into a much wider climate community of practice for Alumni UK. This is about scaling what we have learned, deepening connections across borders, building a truly global network of UK alumni engaged in climate action and advocacy. This new community will focus on three key things: building relationships, sharing and developing good practice in culturally driven climate action, and strengthening knowledge and capacity across our network. So over the coming months, we will bring together the learning from the first phase, define the core purpose and themes of the community of practice, open up opportunities for UK alumni across the world to get involved. A steering group will also be established to help guide this work with the aim of launching regular gatherings from September onwards. So this is not an ending, but on the contrary, a step towards a genuine evolution and expansion of ideas, of collaboration and impact. So thank you once again to all our grantees, our partners, the performers we've had today, the contributors to the event today. Thank you very much indeed for this wonderful experience we've all, I think, had in today's event. So we're very much looking forward to continuing this journey together. And I'll now hand over to James. Over to you, James.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to the British Council for making this all happen and for the wonderful performances and all the sharing for today. It's been, well, not just today. I feel quite moved, actually, to hear some of the results of the projects, but also some of the accompanying kind of cultural contributions that have been made today really strengthened it. And it reflects the kind of work that we've been doing throughout the year. So first of all, just a heartfelt message of respect and love to all of those who've been part of the community, not just for their incredible projects on the ground where they're showing such innovation and commitment, but also being such generous, kind, and engaged members of this community that's really brought it to life over the last year. And it's been, and it's not easy at times working in the climate space, especially for those on the front line, but this feeling of moments of connection and warmth across the world, spending time with great people doing great things is the real antidote to some of the challenges that we face. And as Maria said, so we're opening up to a wider community now. And with this new community, we hope to deepen the roots. So learn from, connect with more actions, culture, practice, wisdom from around the world, and grow those new connections in ways that can really make a difference, that draw up new insights and new possibilities. So we'll be opening up this community to everybody who's been involved in Alumni UK anytime over the last years. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, joining this community, sharing and learning together over the coming year, there is a link on the screen, or there's a link in the chat, and there's a QR code on the screen to express your interest. So if it sounds like it's interesting to you, you can go to the QR code, you can go to the link in the chat, and as soon as we open up for registrations, we'll let you know. You'll be the first to know. And we welcome, as you'd have seen, people working across the world in all the different ways you're contributing to a better future. And we look forward to seeing you as part of that community very soon.
Thank you so much, James. Thank you so much, Maria. Literally could not be doing this without you both. So yeah, thank you for everything that you've done to drive this community forward. And just to close, I'm very, very excited and very proud to introduce the Climate Programmes Lead from British Council. Over to you, Mono.
Thank you so much, Dan. And I'll just be a few minutes because I know we're running over, but just to say it's been an incredibly energizing and inspiring climate showcase, and a really, really big congratulations and thank you to all those of you involved in this brilliant work. The work really resonates with our organizational climate strategy, which recognizes that climate change is the biggest challenge that the world faces, and that it's incredibly important that we think about those climate-related solutions, and we think about how education and culture can really address climate change. So fantastic range of projects from all around the world, thinking back to the keynote speech and the critical role of Indigenous knowledge to creative expression, the thoughtful discussion that's been had, and really to remember that, Helen earlier gave us a brilliant overview of the UK Alumni Programme and the incredible scale and interest and impact of all the projects. But to really remember that these projects are rooted in being deeply human, that human connection, thinking about how our work is important in being rooted in communities, shaped by culture, and really driven by collaboration. So thank you very much. And I'm excited to be able to share all your work even more broadly on global platforms. We participate in the UN's climate conferences. There will be one later this year in Turkey. So really excited to keep working with you. Thank you very much again.
Thank you so much for those closing notes. And it goes to show you, across the breadth of British Council, how important these climate action projects and this community of practice is. There are so many people who are emotionally and physically invested, but it's all there to amplify the huge investment that's going on the ground, through the communities, through the climate action work that's going on the ground. And yeah, we just wanted to thank everybody for joining us this afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you are. We'll be following up this event with the link for the registration, the link for the online film exhibition. We'll also share the highlights video as well. I can just see that James has posted the link onto the chat, and I'll also just share the screen very quickly. So once again, that you can QR code the registration link as well. But once again, thank you very much. My name has been Dan Su. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can also find me on Instagram at Off Yellow Radio, But it's been a deep pleasure. And once again, congratulations to all of our community of practice. Remember, if you want to become part of this community of practice, all you need to do is click that registration link. Thank you, everybody. Happy Earth Day, and have a beautiful week ahead.